We're past Earth Day, but we can't let this article by the BBC go by without a reality check. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Lakely, Vice President of the Heartland Institute, here with another climate realism fact check. Or maybe we should just call it a climate reality check this time. So we have this article from the BBC titled Earth Day, How to Talk to Your Parents About Climate Change. Just great. So we've gone from how to talk to your folks about signing up for Obamacare over hot chocolate with Pajama Boy to how to endure your racist MAGA uncle at Thanksgiving. And now we have how to convince grown-ups to give up on living a good, comfortable life to save the planet for their kids, even when the planet actually doesn't need the saving by the likes of us. But okay, I'll bite. I might have different ways to talk about climate change, but let's get into it. You may want to go vegan to help the planet, but you're not paying for the shopping. You think trains are better than planes, but your dad books the summer holiday. Young people are some of the world's most powerful climate leaders and want rapid action to tackle the problem. It makes a lot of sense. Not really. Higher temperatures and rising sea levels will impact the youngest alive today far more than older generations, but the power to act is often still in the hands of older people, including parents. Wow, how about that? Older people are in charge. We'll get into that in a bit later. Big changes are difficult, especially when they involve other people. So where do you begin? For this year's Earth Day, we spoke to people who have successfully had tricky climate chats at home. Those must have been fun. And here are their top tips. First one is how to talk about going meat-free. Eating less meat is one of the best ways to reduce our impact on the planet, say scientists, according to the BBC. Ilsa, 17, lives in Brighton with her parents, Antonia and Sally. They used to eat meat 2 or even 3 times a day. When Ilsa was 13, she decided to do more about climate change and read that cutting out meat was a good start. Sally and Antonia were skeptical at first, worried about not getting enough protein or that Ilsa was too young to make that decision. Maybe she was. There they are. Aren't they nice? After a 1-day-a-week trial, they quickly scaled up, and after a full year, they were totally meat-free. It was daunting at the beginning, but now it's really good. There's a million recipes out there, Antonia adds. Yeah, lots of people are vegetarians. Sally says that seeing the emotional impact of the topic on her daughter helped to persuade her that it was the right thing for her family. Quote, it's actually seeing her really stick to that commitment, even though we knew that she liked the taste of meat. That makes me stop and think, she says. Oh, and here's a big surprise. Ilsa is part of Teach the Parent, a national campaign that encourages these conversations between generations. It was started by young people frustrated with the lack of international climate action and their feelings of powerlessness, says Melanie Key from Students Organizing for Sustainability UK, who helps to run the project. Even if the first conversation goes badly, Ilsa says, keep going. Big lifestyle changes take time. If you bring it up every so often, it shapes people's attitudes about the long term. In this case, I actually agree. You do need to keep hammering away with your message to those who just won't listen to reason and logic. You have to bring up every so often, for instance, that those electric cars that everyone is supposed to get into are actually slave cars. They're built with cobalt that children dig up with their bare hands in the Congo. The batteries are put together by slave labor in China via the factories powered by coal. The other minerals used to electrify everything else can also do incredible damage to the environment. And I'm guessing actually that this family eats a lot of rice, which is the #1 staple food in the world and a favorite of vegetarians. Well, that's now problematic too. AFP just ran a story about how rice is to blame for around 10% of global emissions of methane, a gas that over 2 decades traps 80 times as much heat as carbon dioxide, unquote. So here's the bad news. They're coming for your alternative foods too, all you vegetarians, because the idea is to take control of your life by taking away your choices. So how about you stop encouraging them to take away my choices, especially since human activity is not causing a climate crisis. Okay, now we're ready for the second tip for kids to talk to grown-ups about taking action on climate change. How to talk about flying less. How we travel is a major source of carbon emissions, but switching from driving or flying could potentially limit family holidays and cost more. Phoebe L. Hansen, a 21-year-old student from Stafford, persuaded her family to go to Cornwall instead of flying abroad. Facts are important, but she advises focusing on the reasons why you care. Quote, say something like, I'm really scared about my future. These are the reasons I want to do something, she suggests. Her mom, Tracy, explains that as Phoebe gets older, their relationship changed from Tracy explaining facts to her to meeting in the middle to share knowledge. She also says one answer to concerns about money is to discuss what type of world parents want their children to inherit. Quote, people talk about how expensive trains are, but think about what the carbon emissions from taking a plane means in the long term for us. Look, tell you what, when you young people organize a protest at every airport where John Kerry or Bill Gates or Klaus Schwab or Leo DiCaprio lands their private jet for yet another climate conference, which, by the way, dwarfs yours and my carbon footprint over decades, then maybe I'll listen to the youth on this stuff. Until then, I'm going to be flying somewhere this spring to have some fun. Okay, now here's the third tip for youth speaking to grown-ups about how to take action on climate change, according to the BBC. How to talk about being waste-free. Radically reducing what we buy and throw away can improve our carbon footprint, but can be time-consuming and difficult. Becky Little, who is 20 and a community carer in Worcester, I wonder what a community carer is, persuaded her parents, Rob and Eileen, to reduce food waste and think more carefully about what they buy. Be well informed about the things you want your family to start changing so they can see that you care and have done some research, she says. Her parents were concerned about convenience, but she focused on the positive impacts. Quote, explain why it will make their lives easier or cheaper, she suggests. Again, this is children talking to parents. Quote, make connections with things they care about. Her family likes to volunteer, so they made meals using leftover food to donate to people in their local community. That's a fantastic idea. Points for that. Quote, it's important to not go into it expecting them to change their whole lives. Small things can make a difference, she explains. See, here's the thing. Small things don't make a difference. They don't. That's why our global leaders who live their lives in spacious homes and eat the most indulgent foods and fly wherever they like are reordering the entire world. They are shutting down reliable energy plants here in the United States and replacing them with intermittent wind and solar. That's why Germany just shut down its last nuclear plant, but now has to fire up coal plants just to offer the minimum power to operate their society because wind power is failing them. That's why they want you out of your cars altogether, banning the sale of a new version of what you're driving right now in just a few years in California and other states. And this is why this kind of story has me so irritated. It's not just because of the absurd hippie nonsense that we have to listen to our children because they are so wise. They are not wise. They are young. They are naive. They are brainwashed. Experience is a necessary ingredient for wisdom, which these children do not have. No, it's because indulging these little things you can do to save the planet, if you choose to do them yourself, has led us to the place where global leaders are now bold enough to just outlaw modern agriculture, the car you drive, the diesel buses you ride, the light bulbs you use, even the ones that were energy efficient like 15 minutes ago, and on and on and on. Why? Because the younger generation has been indoctrinated with the lie that if we do all of these little things and all these things that we're going to use the power of government to force you to do very soon, we can control the global temperature and even the weather itself 75 to 100 years from now. That is simply not true. Most of your generation will live a life of poverty and misery and very little freedom for no benefit whatsoever to the planet if we continue down this path. So in the spirit of this article, that is something I'm going to work on, bringing up every so often to see if it can shape the attitudes of the youth in the long term before it's too late for the rest of us. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe and share with friends. That really helps the algorithm. I'm Jim Lakely, Vice President of the Heartland Institute, and we'll see you next time.